Welcome to this episode of the Center for Audit Quality's Profession in Focus, a conversation about diversity in the accounting profession. My name is Liz Barentzen, and I am the Vice President of Talent Initiatives here at the CAQ. We're continuing our series today with Shannon Nash. Shannon is the newly appointed chair of the National Society of Black CPAs. Thanks for joining me, Shannon.
Thanks for having me, Liz.
So something really interesting and unusual about your background. You have both a JD, law degree, and a CPA. Can you tell me about your personal career history and what led you to becoming both an accountant and a lawyer?
Yeah, Liz, there's more people than you think that are both duly qualified to practice law and accounting. I've found some, although I will say I haven't found a lot who are diverse, and so that's something I'm hoping to motivate people to look at dual degrees as well. But I always kind of knew that I liked finance and numbers, and that's what kind of spawned me even looking into being a CPA. I had a really amazing high school teacher when they taught accounting in high school, who told me that I should really consider that as an undergrad degree. I knew I wanted to go to law school. My father was a lawyer, so I was very motivated to do that, but accounting was something that purely came out of just my love of numbers and really having that early, mentor who believed that I could do it. I wound up going to the University of Virginia and again had, really great professors. In particular, I had this professor, Professor Hunt, who not only believed in supporting the accounting journey and the learning journey, he was a big proponent, and I know a lot of people do this now, but he was a big proponent of preparing us in undergrad to take the CPA exam. So much so that I remember my last semester as a senior, there was a group of us in his class and we were, prepping for the exam. He was helping us. And then in addition, we wound up taking a prep class, and I felt that, the prep class was great. But what I learned from my professor, I think really attributed to the fact that I wound up passing the CPA exam on the first time. And so did all of my other classmates. And so I knew that, accounting would be a career that I felt passionate that I could do well in, but I still had that yearning to go to law school. And luckily met another professor who said, you can be like a corporate or a tax lawyer. It had never dawned on me to try to combine the two. So I went to the University of Virginia's law school as well. And when I first came out, did a series of law firms. I also worked at KPMG in tax and in corporate, and really kind of thought that's where my career was going to stay. But I got an amazing opportunity to go in-house to a major pharmaceutical company. And that was my first time being in an environment where it was more about less professional services and more about, operating and working a business and really understanding what I would call that go-to-market, from research to, how you get the marketing and sales cycle to actually competing in a market. And I loved it. I was very driven by working in corporate, and wound up taking a series of finance jobs over the last 10 years. I've had some leadership jobs. I've been VP of a Fortune 500 company in finance. I've been CFO of a mid-market company, and now I'm Chief Accounting Officer at Reputation.com, a leading SaaS company in the Bay Area. And I think that my background in both law and finance has definitely made me a better executive. I think that, as a CPA, I'm very much trained in controls, processes, really, black and white areas. But as a lawyer, we often see shades of gray. And I think that's helped me, especially the analytical skills has kind of helped me as I've, been an executive at a company in terms of how we lead and how we win. So that's kind of my background in a nutshell. I feel very fortunate that I've been able to combine the two, and I hope to inspire other people to look at other ways that they can, just increase their skill sets.
Yeah. Super impressive. And, the role that mentors play, you cannot underscore enough just how important that is. So you're super lucky to have had those experiences. Can you tell us about the National Society of Black CPAs, specifically more about its mission and formation and how it might differ from NABA's mission?
Yeah, and I'll start. Let's just talk about NABA from the beginning. NABA is a great organization. During this whole COVID time, it's helped me rekindle with NABA. I am a NABA member. I think it's, it has an amazing history, has really focused on the accounting profession as a whole. But the National Society of Black CPAs, we're extremely focused on increasing the number of Black CPAs. I'll take a step back that when the pandemic first started and we were going through PPP funding, helping our businesses stay afloat, there's a lot of press on this. One of the things that happened is that Black and minority businesses were not getting access to the same amount of funding as other companies. And a big part of getting the funding was having that advisor, which was mostly CPAs, to help these businesses. So I had started connecting and doing like free webinars, trying to help, businesses in my community. And then somebody I had met on Facebook, inspired me and a friend of mine, Denier Bashir, to start a Facebook page. Because we thought, if we could better connect, we could better help each other with, this funding, and we can help our community. And it wound up, ballooning into, from 10 people to 20 people to over 500 people. And that's significant because the number of Black CPAs has not increased in over 40 years. I mean, I knew that there was a diversity problem. It's very obvious when I go to meetings, when I'm at, associations, trainings, what have you, that there aren't very many people that look like me in the room. So anecdotally, I knew that, and I'd seen some studies years ago, but I had to take a step back when, I saw the findings that had been put out there that, less than 1% of all CPAs are Black, and it's been that way for 40 years. And so in the Facebook page, of course, a lot of us were driven to do something. And at the same time, you have the backdrop of, social justice and reform and what was going on in our country. And so that was the impetus, if you will, there was a bunch of us who got together in an inaugural call and decided we are going to be an organization and we're going to be very specific about addressing this problem, which didn't happen overnight and is not going to be solved overnight, but we need to accelerate the solving of this problem because we do think that is a problem that, the profession is not diverse. And there's a whole bunch of reasons and studies we can go into why the profession should be diverse. But we know that less than 1% is just, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's not representative at all. So, and so what are the top priorities right now for the National Society of Black CPAs, and how can the profession support those priorities?
So we're very excited. I mean, we are a young organization, and just the level of enthusiasm, the people that have volunteered to help us, both from our board, our committees, has been infectious. So much so that we're busy planning away our annual event, which will be June 4th through 5th in Washington, D.C. We'll be honoring the first Black CPA, John Cromwell. It's 100 years, it'll be the 100-year anniversary of him becoming the first Black CPA, which we think is amazing and something that we have got to celebrate. But it will also be a time, hopefully we'll be able to meet live. We're definitely hopeful that next year we'll be able to have convenings again, because I think it'll be the first time where we are all able to see each other in one room. We'll obviously have programming, we will partner with a lot of organizations, but it'll be historic that 100 years ago, the first Black CPA, actually existed. And I think for a lot of us, it'll be emotional. So we're excited about, our annual event. And so of course, we're going to be looking for support from state societies, organizations that want to partner with us, et cetera. The other thing that we've been spending a lot of time on, we're laser focused on increasing the number of Black CPAs. That's our mission. It's just pretty straightforward. And there's lots of ways to address that. One of the ways we're looking at is let's start with the pipeline problem. And we've heard a lot of people talk about the pipeline problem, and we are looking at it from the standpoint of, well, first the pipeline starts, very much at a younger age, middle school, high school. I told you my personal story was a high school, teacher who took an interest in me. But everybody doesn't have that. So we're looking to partner with organizations like we've reached out to Junior Achievement. There are other organizations. We are happy if anyone hears this and they have a program that deals with, middle and high school students. We want to have, our members in particular going out there, doing career fairs, just sparking that interest in branding the profession as a viable, opportunity for these kids. So that's kind of one of the programs we're working on from a pipeline perspective. Another kind of pipeline initiative and another kind of entry point is once these students are in college and are looking to, either they're trying to figure out their accounting classes or they're taking their, their last year, if you will, their master's program. We want to have boot camp program. And this we've been spending a lot of time. We will provide in our boot camp program CPA exam materials for free, assessment tools, and this is one of the parts that I'm really excited about. We will train Black CPA professors, in addition to people who do this as their day-to-day job at universities. We will actually train other practitioners who want to give back to help teach certain modules. What I will tell you is for many of the people in our boot camp program, this may be the first time that they've ever had a Black professor in accounting.
Wow.
Depending on where they, like at the University of Virginia, I did not have that. There were no Black accounting professors for me. So I think that's going to be motivational as well for a student. We'll have mentors, and we really want to this is another one where we really need to partner with universities and state societies to help with this boot camp program. So we are definitely reaching out for support because it'll be a virtual boot camp program. If anything COVID has taught us is that this does not have to happen in a brick and mortars type of scenario. So we plan to run this program virtually, which means that, anyone in the United States basically can participate in this boot camp. And we hope to see, obviously we're measuring this, but results over the next 2, 3, 4 years from running a program like this that's very targeted, but that is accessible really wherever you are. And with that mentorship component, even if your university can't offer that, we can offer it in the virtual world. So super excited about that program. Talking about, again, I'm kind of walking you through, like, if you think about what we think it's going to take to change the numbers. So I've talked about, K through 12. I've talked about like college. Okay, now you are a profession. We need to keep you in the profession. We need you to thrive in the profession. So we're looking at things that will help make our members more competitive and to help their skill sets, make them more marketable. We are super excited. We have partnered with the Guys School of Business at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. And we are offering a business analytics certificate. It's 18 courses in data analytics, including Tableau, regression topics. That certification will take about 18 months. For our members, it is very cost effective. It's $89.
Wow.
And exactly. And so again, we want our members to be very marketable because again, we're building that pipeline. It's throughout, one's career. The other thing we're working on is having mentor programs. And then we're looking at ways that we can get our members who are a little more seasoned, I'll say, that have been practicing for 20 to 30 years, ways for us to be more visible in the profession. So that means being active with our state societies, being active with the AICPA. We've worked with the AICPAs on, on their committees and getting more of our members to be active on committees. Getting on boards for both nonprofit and for-profit boards. another initiative that we're working on for our members, because we think that if you can see us, you can see what we've accomplished, this can inspire somebody who's 40 years younger than me. So that's kind of the whole pipeline trajectory that we're focusing on. It's not going to change overnight, but we're very hopeful that we will see significant progress in the upcoming years.
Super exciting and actionable ideas, and I'm really excited to follow this progress. It really, and support how we can. And speaking of you, I missed the last name. You said the first Black CPA was John. What was the last name?
Cromwell.
Cromwell. Okay, I need to remember that name and say that name. John Cromwell, first Black CPA. Let's remember that. On that, on your website, you list the first 100 Black CPAs. And curious from your perspective why it's important to call out this information.
I think it's super important. I'm glad that you will remember that name, because one of the things I do want to point out on our website about John is we've actually named a scholarship after him, and we are raising money for the John Cromwell Scholarship. And so he went to Dartmouth. And if you could think about going to Dartmouth over 100 years ago as a Black man, I'm sure that was not easy. And then becoming a certified public accountant in like 1921, I'm sure that was not easy. So that's one of those facts that we truly celebrate, and we've named a scholarship after him, and it'll provide Black CPA candidates with funds for their review materials and exam fees and things of that nature. So we're super happy about raising money for that. But you got to know your history, I think, to really understand where you're going. And finding this history is not super easy. Teresa Hammond has written a book about the first 100 Black CPAs. I highly recommend it. But in addition to her book, and we've worked with Teresa as well, we've been putting this on our website, putting it on our social media pages, because we want to be able to show this amazing history that no one gets taught this. There was no class in high school, well, let's go back, elementary, middle, high school, that I would have ever learned about, the accomplishment of these trailblazers. Then when I got into college and was clearly looking at accounting as a profession, there was nowhere where this history would have been shared with me as well. There was no forum for it to be shared. So many of us graduate and we have no clue. We just know that there are not a lot of people like us. We have no clue, unless we were lucky enough to live somewhere where somebody has shared the story about, this person was a Black CPA back in the 40s or whatever. We would never know that. There are fascinating stories on our site, and I hope your listeners will look at them. For example, there's Chauncey Christian, who, when he took the CPA exam, he was of mixed race. His father was white and his mother was Black, but they asked him, the people who were supporting him said, you need to take this exam as a white man. You'll have a better shot of actually it being accepted if you pass the exam. And so he did. And so I just can't imagine what was that like to have to deny who you are just so you could sit to take the exam. So those type of stories you will find on our website. I'm fascinated when they come out every week or so. I'm fascinated by them because it's just history I never knew. And we hope that this will inspire, a whole generation of folks.
Super important. And I am excited to go back to your website and take a look. The AICPA Trends Report data shows that Black bachelor's and master's accounting graduates hired into accounting finance functions of U.S. CPA firms has decreased from 2007, where it was at 8% to just 4% in 2018. What factors and barriers do you think are keeping Black students from entering the profession?
Well, I sure hope that, I've heard lots of people talking about maybe doing a study on this, and I think we do need the data. I can give you some anecdotal kind of stories and belief, but I do think that there should really be some data on this. So, because that data would help us be more actionable. What I can tell you anecdotally, I think that it's lack of access to funding. I think it's, and let's start with the funding part, which also feeds into, I think, the branding of the profession. And so I can give you the comparison of what I knew about in terms of funding for my accounting track versus funding for my legal track. And just my personal experience, it seemed like there were a plethora and much more access to funding for, you know, minority and diverse candidates who wanted to go into law than into accounting. So part of it, I have no data to support this at all. This is all just experience. What I will tell you though, is I do think there's a branding problem. I've said this before in a couple of places that, you know, you can name off the top of your head probably 10 TV shows and movies about lawyers and lawyers of all races. Like the profession has been diversified in terms of just the marketing of it. You see this all the time. I'm not sure where you find that about an accountant. It's very hard. There's the movie, The Accountant, and that was an assassin movie. Nothing against that movie. I'm just saying that like there are very few things that I know that you guys have worked on a documentary that's amazing and is trying to combat that. And we need more of that, because I do think when it comes to the funding, a big part of it comes to is there a perceived problem? Like what's the branding, the marketing of the profession? So it's all kind of interrelated. It's not just one factor, but I do think funding is an issue. And I'm just not sure if I'm a student who's got good grades and I'm super smart and I'm at a decision tree, should I get an MBA? Maybe I go to law school. Maybe I do computer science. Maybe I do accounting. You have all these different like factors, you know, STEM is very, STEM careers are, you know, what's hot now. And so when I look to see where can I get, you know, funds to go to school or to take this, you know, extra year of schooling, I'm gonna see a lot more funding in those areas than in accounting, and probably gonna look to apply to that. So that's that. Mentors, you know, a big part of career choices has to do with you feeling like you have something in common with people in that career, feeling supported, feeling that you could see yourself doing this for the next 10, 15, 20 years. And a big part of that, I think, is swayed by just having access and opportunities. And, you know, I told you and alluded in the beginning of this that it was the mentors who made a big difference for me as to me even being in this profession, because I could have easily just done something completely different. I could have been a poli-sci major. I knew I wanted to go to law school, but the mentors made the difference. And then I just think, you know, it's just not back to the branding a bit, but it is the knowledge of what you can do with this career. If you had told me back in, you know, 1992, when I graduated from college, I would be doing what I'm doing today, I don't even think I could have understood that. That would have been very foreign to me in understanding that as a career choice. Like, how does one get to be, you know, a finance leader, chief accounting officer, and an operator at a tech company? None of that would have made sense at all, because I just didn't know. I didn't know people who, you know, worked in business at big companies, if you will, that were running different department brands, had, you know, P&L responsibility. I didn't have access to that. It was foreign to me. But I think exposing people, giving them the knowledge, it gives them the ability to maybe choose different career paths. So it's a lot of work. It is not going to happen overnight. It's going to have to be intentional. But I do know that, you know, we've talked about this, Liz, actually. There's lots of people looking at the why and what can be done about that.
And just, you know, when you were talking about your own history and how, you know, your CPA education and license, that gave you such a leg up on understanding the inner workings of business and what power and how that could be multiplied in Black communities by giving that knowledge around how to run a business is so important. So what initiatives have you seen firms some of the bigger firms specifically taking that you think will help move the needle on bringing more diversity to the profession?
Yeah, so I can kind of again share anecdotally what I've seen in terms of how successful the programs are or not. I think time will tell. What I will say to you, so being in the tech field where diversity is a problem, there's been a big focus, especially recently, on like diversity. I think no one can dispute that the best innovation comes when you have diverse teams and diverse leadership. I think it's just a fact. But how you get there has been, I think, more of a challenge for people. I can tell you that what I'm seeing companies do is being very intentional about especially their recruiting and their sourcing. I know one company that has specifically taken a couple people on their team, and they are completely focused on sourcing diverse talent. And that's huge, to have a headcount whose job is to go out there and just source and build a pipeline, like build a database intentionally of diverse people with diverse skill sets. I hadn't seen things like that happening in, 5 years ago. People said diversity, but they weren't really trying to move the needle. But that will move the needle, I can tell you. It's just going to take some time because you have to have a job opportunity available. But what will happen is, as these opportunities become available, the source or the pool of where you're pulling from now has expanded. And now there is actually, people are being cognizant that they need to pull from this pool. People are being, when you talk about how you are comping people and what you're using for their bonuses or their KPIs, there are metrics now following, how recruiting and talent is going about sourcing and bringing in these diverse candidates. So I think that those type of programs will have some longer term success. What I'll also say, in terms of accounting firms in particular, so not necessarily corporate, I am familiar with one accounting firm. It's BDO. I'm not sure if I should be mentioning names, but it's BDO.
It's one of our governing board member firms.
I'm pretty impressed by BDO. I have a really good friend who's a partner in the Silicon Valley office, but I talk to him all the time, and their board is 50% female, including a board chair that is a female. And again, these are things that just, when I think about my career and when I started, didn't even seem attainable. I'm not even sure I even thought that was something that would happen before my career ended. That's a powerful visual, because if it's Shannon in 2020 starting at the firm, and I want to have a family and I want to do all these things, there's people that I can look at in that firm and model my whole career off of. It wasn't like that. I didn't have anybody to model my career off of. And in fact, I remember, I have kids. I remember with one of my kids, knowing that I would go back to practicing in a professional services capacity, and I would not be on a regular partnership track, and I was going to be paid 60 to 70% of my salary, even though I knew I was going to still get called at night, still get called on the weekends, but I was just going to make less money. I kind of had it tanked because I was non-partner. I went out and had a baby. Those type of things, like at a BDO, have ended. And I think that will have long-term impacts on why people choose to stay, who chooses to stay at these type of firms. I also have a friend who is a partner at E&Y, and he is the managing partner of the Silicon Valley office, African American, and he was sharing with me that they have a program called EY Unplugged, and is really aimed about onboarding ethnically diverse new hires, tracking them, giving them mentors. It's a long-standing program, but again, I'm encouraged by those type of programs that specifically are geared towards helping people through their entire career trajectory at a major accounting firm, and being very very intentional about it. So I think that's what's going to be needed. But look, you know, this is not going to be, I keep saying it, it's not going to be solved overnight. It's going to take a lot of effort. It is not going to be easy, and you're going to need leaders who understand that it's not going to be easy. Just simply saying things like, oh, there's no pipeline. Well, when I hear people say there's no pipeline, I go, build it then.
Right.
Like, build it. I don't care that it's going to take you 10 years. Build it. But I disagree that there's no pipeline. It's just, part of it is you don't really know where to reach out for the pipeline. There are certain industries, yes, where it's hard. And even in accounting, they go, oh, well, it's hard. And I'm like, but yet I've never gotten, you know, all the jobs that you have open, you've never reached out to me.
Right.
Like, not one time. So how hard did you look for me? I just want to know. And that usually kind of ends that argument. But I have hope. I mean, I'm in California. What I will tell you is that we had already passed a law here 2 years ago that required public boards to have at least one woman on their board, and 2 by, like, I think the end of this year, I believe. And just yesterday, Governor Newsom passed a law that says that boards now have to have ethnically diverse board members, and that includes African-American, Latino, Indian. There's like a whole list of, you know, diverse board members that now have to be on California-based companies by the end of 2021. So I am encouraged that, you know, these initiatives will help to make some significant changes. And then, you know, here at the National Society of Black CPAs, we're just going to keep up the work. Like, we're not going to give up. The initiatives take a while. We're not going to be discouraged, and we're looking for help. Anybody that agrees with our mission, please reach out to us, because there is a place that you can help us for sure.
Yeah. Fantastic. This has been a wonderful conversation, and I hope you know the National Association of Black CPAs has a supporter in the CAQ. We are huge fans of what you're doing and aligned with your mission. So super exciting. Thank you, Shannon. Really appreciated this conversation about diversity for our Profession in Focus series. So thank you.
Thanks, Liz.